Hi guys, today I'm going to be reading Herbert Hilligan and his magical lunchbox. From the cover, I can tell. I think this is obviously Herbert. Oh, there's a clear. And it makes me wonder, why is his lunchbox so magical? And I don't know, it just makes me curious. The illustrations are from Wu Ti Kwan, and he is really famous for Humpty Dumpty After the Fall. So all of the illustrations are really good. So let's get reading and figure out why his lunchbox is so magical. This book is actually, on a side note, really good because it's got little boxes in the book that are actual math problems that have to do with the story, so this can kind of knock out math and reading at the same time. Here we go. The school day began as all his days did for Herbert Hilligan, an average kid. He sat up in bed to face a new day and all of the challenges coming his way. He showered so quickly he dressed in a flash and ran to the kitchen in a fast-footed dash. He drank down his milk and chomped on his toast, and then came the part that he treasured most, packing his lunch for a day at his school in his magical lunchbox, the coolest of cool. His lunchbox was neat. It was one of a kind. It was special to him and would help him in a bind. And in it he packed the same lunch each day, chocolate milk cupcakes and a PB&J. Herbert, get ready or you'll miss the first bus, he heard his mom shout in her usual fuss. At this part, it makes me wonder, what's magical about his lunchbox and what does it exactly do? Here's a picture of it. And the thing about this lunchbox is this was actually the exact same lunchbox that the author used when he was in elementary school. So let's figure out why it's so magical. So he walked out the door and down the main street to the usual corner where all the kids meet. He got on the bus, which was headed for school, holding his lunchbox, the coolest of cool. And up the steep hill went the school bus with grudge. The speed struck at 40, the needle wouldn't budge. At the top of the hill, the bus engine stalled and scared all the kids as the bus drivers called, "Hang on to your seats, my brakes have gone out," and all the school kids started to shout. As the speed of the bus got faster and faster, Herbert prevented a certain disaster. Herbert thought quickly. He knew what to do. He opened his window and his lunchbox just flew. So this makes me really excited, and I think his lunchbox, I think it's going to turn into like a parachute or something that's going to make the bus slow down. And in his illustration, you can see him throwing his lunchbox out the window, which I don't think in a regular day I would like to throw my lunch out the window. The lunchbox flew down from the very steep hill, and once touching the ground was not very still. The next thing that happened caused all the kids to stare as the lunchbox became a 30-foot bear. The teddy bear was fluffy and cuddly as could be, as it sat in the street where all the kids could see. The bus rolled faster, the speed wouldn't drop, but it was hugged by the bear and safely came to a stop. "Hooray for Herbert," all the kids shouted, but Herbert was cool and never once doubted, for his magical lunchbox had saved the day, becoming a bear which stood in the way. Now, when I read this, I like to think of what other ways could have his lunchbox stopped the bus, and I really kind of like the teddy bear idea because there's nothing better than falling into a big, cozy teddy bear. But all was not over. There was no time to rest. Herbert was going to take a math test. School was important. Herbert couldn't wait. On the day of the test, he couldn't be late. So without any warning, no warning at all, Herbert worked quickly. He wouldn't dare stall. Up went his lunchbox, toward the moon, and before he could blink, it became a balloon. The beautiful balloon that took him to school, was really his lunchbox, the coolest of cool. Up, and away, it flew through the air, as all the kids looked up to stare. As the kids waved to Herbert, who was up in the sky, he waved back to them to signal goodbye. The balloon carried Herbert like the wings of a bird, but then Herbert paused. Was that thunder he heard? And again, I think of all the ways that he could have gone to school, and I worry if he's scared of thunder because I know I definitely was when I was in elementary school. And is he going to get struck by lightning? Is he going to fall out of the sky? What is his lunchbox going to do if that happens? And it just honestly makes me very anxious. So let's read and figure out. The thunder was loud, and the lightning was quick. As it struck the balloon, Herbert fell like a brick. As he fell toward the ground with his lunchbox in hand, he knew that he needed a soft place to land. He had an idea, this quick-thinking fellow. His lunchbox became a pool full of Jell-O. It wiggled and jiggled and moved all around and cushioned his landing as he fell to the ground. This book's really funny. But where he had landed, where could he be? It seemed like a jungle from what he could see. A jungle of plants and grasses and trees, so it was no wonder that it made him sneeze. He knew he must find his way to school holding his lunchbox, the coolest of cool. After reading that, I'm really curious about where he landed, because what jungle is there in the middle of the route from his house to school? But maybe he's in the forest, or maybe his magical lunchbox took him to Africa because it's magic. I have no idea, but we got to figure out how he's going to get to his math test because he definitely cannot miss that. I personally think he's somewhere crazy because his lunchbox is magic. He walked very slowly. He could not see ahead, what lurked in the grass or over his head. He came to a clearing in front of a lake. He thought to himself, what will it take? For Herbert couldn't swim, but he knew he must cross this body of water full of mud, fish, and moss. He tossed his red lunchbox with the hope it would float, and before he could blink, it turned into a boat. The problem was solved. Herbert paddled a while until just ahead, a huge crocodile. The crocodile snapped and scared him a bunch. It chased after Herbert to eat him for lunch. This reptile swam closer with its mouth open wide. As Herbert rowed faster, it reached the lakeside. The boat sped along with the beast underneath, showing off a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth. And this makes me curious how he's gonna escape a crocodile, because I don't really know how else you could do that without a magical lunchbox. So I try to predict what the lunchbox is going to do, and maybe the lunchbox is going to turn into duct tape and tape the crocodile's mouth shut. I have no idea. But I like all the adventure that is in this book, and it's very unpredictable, which is a good characteristic in a children's book. Herbert rowed to the shore and looked back in fright to see a large mouth lunge for a bite. Herbert jumped to the shore with his heart in his throat. As this hungry green beast sank its teeth into the boat, Herbert was happy, feeling calm, safe, and cool. But he knew he must hurry and get right to school. He had to move quickly. He had no time to rest. Today was the day of his weekly math test. He arrived at the school with a minute to spare. He rushed to his room and sat in his chair. The math test was easy. He got all the answers right. He knew how to work them, having studied last night. But math ended quickly. It was now time for lunch, the part of the day when Herbert could munch. He took out his lunch that he packed for the day, chocolate milk, cupcakes, and PB&J. And in his red lunchbox, the coolest of cool, Herbert found something not common at school. On top of a cupcake with his milk underneath, Herbert found 2 big razor-sharp teeth. And another day ended as all his days did for Herbert Hilligan, an average kid. Just an average day for Herbert at school, and his magical lunchbox, the coolest of cool. This is actually really funny because there's crocodile teeth in his cupcake. I don't think I'd eat that cupcake because that's kind of gross. And that's the end. And I really like this book because his dog was right there with him through all of his adventures, and his lunchbox managed to save him through very weird, ways and very unpredictable. Um, I really enjoyed this book, and I loved it when I was little just because I thought everything that happened was just so outrageous and funny. And I think it's a good way to work kids' foreshadowing skills. It's definitely something where you take what you're looking at or what you're reading and kind of predict what's going to happen. And I like that if you haven't read the book, there's no possible way you guess any of it. But yeah, that's the book, and I really liked it. I hope y'all liked it too.